Manchester United's midfield rebuild is officially underway, but the deeper the club looks into the transfer market, the more complicated the picture becomes. One name that keeps resurfacing is Sandro Tonali, a player United once tried to sign years ago in a dramatic last-minute attempt. Now, with the summer window approaching and a new midfield era looming at Old Trafford, the Italian star is once again part of the conversation. But here's the dilemma. Tonali would be a statement signing, yet he may not even be the club's top priority. Instead, Manchester United's recruitment strategy appears to be pointing toward younger Premier League proven options like Adam Wharton and Elliot Anderson. Add competition from European giants and domestic rivals, plus the shadow of another midfield superstar in Bruno Guimaraes, and suddenly, United face a genuine transfer puzzle. So the big question is simple. Should Manchester United finally complete the Tonali deal they once tried to hijack, or should they follow a completely different blueprint? Let's break it all down. The need for a new midfielder at Manchester United has become one of the most obvious storylines heading into the summer transfer window. If you've been following the club's trajectory this season, it's clear why. The midfield has functioned well in spells, particularly during the impressive run under interim manager Michael Carrick, but long-term planning is unavoidable. The squad is entering a transition phase, and the club's hierarchy understands that the next signing in that area could shape United's tactical identity for years to come. The biggest factor driving this urgency is the impending departure of Casemiro. The Brazilian midfielder has been a crucial figure since arriving from Real Madrid, bringing leadership, defensive discipline, and championship experience. Casemiro's contract situation means the upcoming summer window will likely mark the end of his Old Trafford chapter. When he leaves, United won't just lose a player, they'll lose the backbone of their midfield structure. Replacing that influence is not simple. In recent seasons, Manchester United have taken heavy criticism for their transfer decisions. Expensive signings that failed to deliver consistency created a sense that the club lacked a clear recruitment philosophy. However, the last summer window hinted that things might finally be changing. United's attacking signings have largely been viewed as successes. Matheus Cunha arrived with Premier League experience and immediately adapted to the tempo of English football. Bryan Mbeumo brought creativity and work rate, becoming an instant fan favourite. Meanwhile, Benjamin Šeško has begun to demonstrate why the club invested heavily in his potential. These signings shared several key characteristics. They were proven in the Premier League, relatively attainable from clubs outside the traditional Big Six, and still entering their prime years. That blueprint, targeting high-performing players outside the elite clubs, now appears to be influencing the midfield search as well. Which brings us to Adam Wharton and Elliot Anderson. Few young midfielders in England have risen as quickly as Adam Wharton. Since moving to Crystal Palace, he has quietly developed into one of the most technically refined midfielders in the league. Wharton's composure on the ball stands out immediately. He plays with the maturity of a veteran, constantly scanning the pitch, distributing passes under pressure, and controlling the rhythm of matches. His role in Palace's recent FA Cup triumph only elevated his reputation further. Performances like that naturally attract attention from the biggest clubs. Manchester United are far from alone in monitoring his progress. But what makes Wharton particularly attractive to United is his profile. He's young, adaptable, and already comfortable with the demands of the Premier League. That combination makes him a low-risk but high-potential investment. Elliot Anderson represents another intriguing option. After leaving Newcastle United to join Nottingham Forest, Anderson has flourished. His move initially surprised many observers, but it quickly proved beneficial for both his development and Forest's midfield structure. Dynamic, energetic, and technically sharp, Anderson has become a crucial player at the City ground. Interestingly, his departure from Newcastle still frustrates figures at the club. Manager Eddie Howe has openly criticised the financial restrictions created by Premier League profit and sustainability rules, suggesting they force difficult decisions regarding player sales. Anderson was one of those casualties. Now, with the midfielder excelling and drawing attention from the biggest clubs in England, Newcastle could find themselves watching a player they once developed become a superstar elsewhere. Manchester United are reportedly among the clubs closely tracking his situation. But Anderson isn't the only Newcastle-related name on United's radar. Back in 2020, as Tonali prepared to leave Brescia, Manchester United attempted a dramatic late intervention. Reports at the time suggested that figures at Old Trafford made a last-ditch phone call in an attempt to hijack the deal. But the move came too late. Tonali had already progressed too far in negotiations with AC Milan, and the transfer was completed shortly afterwards. For United supporters, that episode became one of those classic what-if moments in transfer history. Now, several years later, the opportunity may have returned. Since moving to Newcastle, Tonali has gradually established himself as a key figure in the team's midfield. His style blends Italian tactical discipline with the high-energy demands of English football. He covers ground relentlessly, breaks up attacks, and distributes the ball with precision. Those qualities have not gone unnoticed. When a player attracts interest from clubs like Arsenal and Real Madrid, it signals something important. His stock is rising rapidly. Manchester United, naturally, are aware of this situation, but pursuing Tonali would not be simple. First, there is the issue of cost. Elite midfielders in today's market rarely move for modest fees. Even players with limited Premier League experience often command prices approaching £80 million or more. Tonali would likely fall into that bracket. Secondly, there is Newcastle's negotiating position. If the club once again qualifies for the UEFA Champions League, their financial and sporting leverage increases significantly. Selling a key midfielder would make little sense unless an extraordinary offer arrived. That means United would need both financial muscle and persuasive negotiation to even begin serious talks. And while Tonali is an attractive option, there's another name circulating within Old Trafford's recruitment discussions: Bruno Guimaraes. The Brazilian midfielder has arguably been Newcastle's most influential player since arriving from Olympique Lyonnais. His combination of creativity, aggression, and leadership has transformed Newcastle's midfield into one of the most dynamic units in the league. Interestingly, Guimaraes also has a connection with Casemiro through the Brazil national football team. According to reports, Casemiro himself has privately recommended Guimaraes as the ideal successor at Manchester United. When a player of Casemiro's pedigree suggests a replacement, it reflects not just technical admiration, but also trust in a player's mentality and leadership qualities. However, Guimaraes would be even more expensive than Tonali. His valuation reportedly approaches £100 million. All of these possibilities create a fascinating strategic dilemma for Manchester United. Should the club pursue established elite midfielders like Tonali or Guimaraes, players who would immediately elevate the squad but require enormous financial investment? Or should they stick to their newer recruitment philosophy by targeting rising Premier League talents like Wharton or Anderson? Each path carries advantages and risks. Elite players bring instant impact, but also higher expectations and financial pressure. Young Premier League talents offer development potential, but may take longer to reach world-class level. For the club's leadership, choosing the correct direction will define the next phase of the rebuild. There is also another factor that could influence United's transfer strategy: success on the pitch. Under Michael Carrick, the team's resurgence has dramatically improved their chances of qualifying for the Champions League. Securing a place in Europe's premier competition would significantly increase the club's financial flexibility. Champions League football attracts elite players. It increases transfer budgets, and it reinforces the club's global prestige. In short, qualification could open doors that might otherwise remain closed. For players like Tonali or Guimaraes, the chance to compete regularly in the Champions League remains a major factor in career decisions. As the summer window approaches, Manchester United's midfield plans remain fluid. Wharton and Anderson appear to fit the club's new recruitment model. Tonali represents unfinished transfer business from the past. Guimaraes could be the blockbuster signing recommended by a departing legend. Each path tells a different story about the future of Manchester United. What happens next may depend on finances, negotiations, and the final weeks of the season. But one thing is clear: the midfield rebuild is coming, and the decision could define the club's next era. So here's the big question, United fans. If you could choose just one midfielder this summer, who would it be? Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Adam Wharton, or Elliot Anderson? Drop your choice in the comments and explain why. And if you want more deep dive Manchester United stories, transfer news and match analysis, make sure to subscribe. Because this summer could reshape the future of the club.